Record button. So today we are going to talk about a few things. We're going to introduce our presenters, and then we're going to talk about homestays, on-campus housing options, off-campus housing options, some other important information you should know about living in the US. Our student mentor June is going to talk a little bit about life at PSU, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A session for you. So today we have 4 main presenters and 1 person in the background helping out. So my name is Alyssa Koida. I'm an admin program assistant at the Office of International Student and Scholar Services. My role, I help students who have come on different government scholarships to attend PSU, as well as helping with orientation in our mentor program and the fun going out and doing events type of things. I'll pass it to Allison to introduce herself.
Yeah, hi. I'm Allison Gammons. I work in the housing office here at Portland State. I help support the front desk. So sometimes if you're calling or coming into our office, I might be one of the people you're working with. And I'm here to just talk about on-campus housing and answer any questions you might have. And I'll hand it over to Christy.
Hey everyone, my name is Christy Kang, and I'm one of the academic advisors in the intensive English language program. I'm also a member of the new international student services team and help with orientation and activities and a lot of other things. And I'll pass it off to June.
Hi everyone, my name is Byungjun Park. Currently, I am a senior in Portland State University. I'm also part of the International School Student Mentor Team, which is a team consists of students helping the new students to settle in Portland State.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. And then, Chindi, do you want to introduce yourself as well while you're here?
Oh, sure, of course. My name is Chendi Hop, and I'm an international student advisor, which is I'm the one who helps with immigration issues. And I also am part of the new student services. I'll be part of orientation, and I'm the one running the poll too. So please answer the questions. Thank you.
We just have a few questions for you, just to give us an idea of who is here today and when you're coming, as well as what type of housing you're interested in. So we'll just give you a minute to fill out the poll. That's great. It looks like we have a little bit of everyone here. So we've got undergrads, master's students, doctoral and exchange students, and a few starting in summer, but most of you, it looks like you're starting in fall, which is great. So you've got time to prepare to look for housing, which is wonderful. Most of you are looking for on-campus or off-campus. Let's see, no one's interested
really
in a
half and
homestay. Maybe I
half.
can convince someone to do a homestay today. And then, okay, a few of you have housing already, but most of you don't. Okay, this is perfect. Okay.
And Alyssa, will you let them know that to put questions in the Q&A?
Oh yeah, so I guess a little housekeeping. So we have on Zoom, we have the chat function and the Q&A function. Chindy's gonna be helping monitor the Q&A. So if you have a question, feel free to type it in the Q&A. And then at the end, we'll have more time if you want to unmute yourself and ask a question to us. We'll just go through the presentation first, but feel free to, if you think of a question, put it in the Q&A, and then we'll make sure we get to that question either by Chindy chatting back to you or talking about it at the end. Okay. So I know no one chose a homestay as maybe a possible option, but I'll still go over it just so you have a better understanding of what options there are in Portland. So I would say a homestay is a great option for students who want to experience living with a local family and learning more about Portland and practicing their English. So next, I'll talk a little bit about what it's like to live in a homestay and what the benefits are. So understanding local culture, I would say American culture is very diverse, and experiencing firsthand what it's like to live with a family in Portland is a much different experience than living on your own or learning about it through books or TV. And you'll get the opportunity to discover daily customs and rituals in a typical home, as well as find out how local families celebrate holidays or enjoy their free time, what they eat, how they interact with each other, and their daily way of living. Um, Practicing English. So living with a host family will improve your language skills because you're pretty much forced to speak English. And you might learn words or phrases that are useful in everyday situations, understand a variety of conversation topics, or pick up slang or casual language. And it's a really great way to practice and learn English with people you see every day and feel comfortable with. And then lastly, building the connection. I would say one of the most lasting benefits you may get with staying with a host family is the connections you make. Just by spending a lot of time with the host family, you'll find out how they live and what their interests are far more easily than you could in most circumstances, just by meeting people. And then I would say most families are available to help when you have questions about Portland or the culture, maybe homework or just English grammar. And especially if you're feeling homesick, they may try to include you in family celebrations and activities. And hopefully, you'll become part of the family and lifelong friends. I did myself, I did a year of study abroad. The first place I lived in Milan and I stayed in an apartment with an American roommate. And then the second place I went to Tokyo and lived with a homestay. And I would say that it was a much different experience. Both were great in their own way. When I lived in an apartment, I had more independence, but when I had my host family, I really got to see what it was like in a typical Japanese home. And my host mother was amazing. And I learned to make Japanese food and just kind of like the small daily customs that you would never ever see if you kind of kept to your own habits living in an apartment. And so I do encourage people to think about it just in case if you want a different type of experience. The process to apply for a homestay in Portland, there's a few different options, and each offer different things, but I would say that you should apply at least 4 weeks in advance or more, just because it takes time. And that yeah, due to the availability in the application itself, I would suggest being as detailed as possible. Um, And that will just help the organization match you with a family that fits your interests. Like, for example, if you have any allergies, if you do or don't like pets in the house, because a lot of people in Portland have cats or dogs, what your hobbies are, if you're shy or outgoing, or if you're used to being with a big outgoing family or a quiet one, or enjoy the company of children. So applying early and being detailed will really help the organization match you with a family that you're comfortable with. And I would say, lastly, um, another key piece of being in a homestay is being flexible, having an open mind, and trying new things. I think the one thing that you will probably see when you get here is that the US is a very diverse place, and each individual family have their own unique take on American culture and their way of living. So hosts can be from different backgrounds. They can be single parents or older adults and families with young children or or older children or no children. So it's just really important to be have an open mind when you're doing a homestay. And then these are the two main homestays in Portland. I won't go into a lot of detail right now about them, but I wanted to have this slide for you if you wanted to go back to the recording later. And we'll share the slides after, so it's for you to visit if that's something you are interested in. Okay, so I'll pass it to Allison to talk about on-campus housing.
Thanks. So if we can hop over to the first slide. I will say that a lot of this information I put together with summer in mind, seeing that most of you are going to be for fall, I'm going to add some additional information that's a little bit different for fall term than for summer term. So first off, why live on campus? There are a lot of great benefits to living on campus. It's a good price point. There is a sense of community there. So one of the things I like to look at is that we have about 2,000 students that live on campus. In the summer, it's even less. And so when you're in this big university in this new place, it is a somewhat smaller community that's all living together, that's seeing each other regularly. So it's a good way to build that community. We also have intentional programs for community building. There are residence assistants who are student staff that live in the halls that build programs and run things regularly. And then we also have professional staff, residence directors who also live in the halls and run larger programs and oversee programming, and then also are there to help in times of need and support students as they're navigating the process of being at college. We have, so I put some of those points there. To apply for housing, you go through our website. So our applications are handled separately from other PSU applications, and it's through what we call the housing portal on our website. So if you go to pdx.edu/housing, there are instructions there. For summer term, we do have housing still available. Largely our one-bedroom apartments. And I believe we have both singles and doubles for those. A single means that you'd have the room to yourself. A double means you would have a roommate. We have sleepers. Those are all singles. So no roommates in those. And those are a smaller sort of a room. You get a microwave and mini fridge that we provide. And there's a sink in the room, but then the bathrooms are shared per floor. And there's a community kitchen on the ground floor. And then we have double studios. So those are studio apartments. There's a room, you have a bathroom in room, and then there's a kitchen or a kitchenette in room. Kitchenette is a stovetop and a mini fridge. Kitchen is a stove, oven, and a mini fridge. And those we mostly have available to share with a roommate. During the academic year, and we have the one bedrooms, we have the studios as either doubles or singles, we have the sleepers, and we also have what are called studio suites. So those are two studio spaces, so single rooms that have a bathroom and kitchen that's just shared with the adjoining unit. And we have a lot of availability for fall term. So if you're coming in the fall, you'll see we have a lot of spaces available still in a lot of different unit types. Next slide, please. So for the summer, we are not offering any early move-in. We have a very short period to get everything ready for you. So move-in's going to be June 22nd. And if you're signed up for the summer, you'll be able to select a time slot to move in. That's where you tell us kind of what time you're going to be coming in the housing portal. We'll send you specific move-in information. If you're coming in the fall, we're also starting to send out the move-in time slot information. However, for the fall, we do offer an early move-in for international students. And so that information is in the portal. I'm forgetting the dates right off the top of my head, but it's like the week like 2 weeks before the term starts. So you'll have about a week to kind of adjust to being at PSU before everybody else moves in and before the term starts. And you will also go into the housing portal and select a move-in time slot. To move in, there's a move-in guide we have on our website with information on what to bring and what not to bring. The thing to note for summers is we do not have air conditioning in our residence halls. However, this summer we are allowing students to provide their own air conditioning unit if they would like. And there's a real specific policy about what's allowed and what isn't. So if you are interested in doing that, want to get yourself an air conditioning unit, you'll want to read that to see sort of what's allowed. It's only for the summer. It's a trial rollout. Don't bring things that, have open flames, open heating coils. One thing to know is we provide, so you'll want to read your housing assignment. So when you select a unit or when you're looking at units, read what is available and what isn't. Most of our units have a mini fridge in them. However, we do not provide microwaves in any except for one of our unit types. The sleepers are the only ones we provide a microwave in. So we don't provide linen. So you're going to need your own bed sheets. We do provide a bed frame and a mattress, a dresser, and a desk, but we don't provide cleaning supplies. So just read through the list of what you'll need to bring. And if you have questions, ask us. And then you're going to want to make sure to get your PSU ID card as soon as you get on campus. If you can't get it before you move in, that's fine. We'll be able to get you checked in. We'll be able to get you into your room. And then as soon as ID services open, you'll go and get your ID card. Next slide. And one of the questions we get a lot about is roommates. So we will assign your roommate based on roommate matching. So you fill out a questionnaire in the application, and in that you'll indicate some information, like if you like it loud or quiet, if you're very clean or not as worried about that. And that information we use to pair you with a roommate. So you'll want to answer those questions as honestly as you can. We are sending out information about roommates for summer very soon. And then for fall, it'll be a little bit closer to fall term. We'll send that out in August. Some things that have come up this year, just to know, we do not, we pay attention to gender when pairing roommates, but we don't pay attention to nationality. So you may end up being paired with another international student that is not going to, keep you from being able to practice your English, get out and build community. Just be aware that that is not something we use to base our pairings on. If you have a roommate that you are having trouble with, during the summer, we ask you to go to your residence assistants. They can help. And if it's a really serious issue that just cannot be handled, we will do an emergency room transfer. During the academic year, we have an option to transfer rooms after a few weeks. So if you're here in the fall and your roommate's just not working, but it's not, a dangerous situation, you just really want a different roommate, you can fill out a room transfer request form and we'll be able to get a room transfer going for you. I think that's my last slide. All right.
Allison, there was a specific question for you. If
Yes.
a person can get on-campus housing together with a spouse, So with a
So
dependent.
if your spouse is not a PSU student, um, as long as you are married, we do have very limited family housing. Um, there's one building, there's only about 30 units, and it's not only for married students or family housing. So you can apply for it. There's a form to fill out. But at this point, I will say that the chances are pretty slim to get that kind of housing on campus, just because they are, at the moment, they are full for summer and fall. But it is technically available. And I'd recommend if you want to explore that, email us housing@pdx.edu, and we can look more specifically with our person who does assignments to see what there is at this point.
All right, the next thing we're going to cover is off-campus housing. I know a lot of you chose that as an option. So next slide. So some of the things to think about, there's a lot more things to think about when choosing off-campus housing, because you will need to find out all the information about yourself. So for apartment rentals, the research process is pretty big that you should take things into consideration. One of the first things is, where do you want to live? There's many places. The city's pretty big, so you want to consider the distance. How far do you want to commute to campus? What kind of transportation do you have? So the location of your apartment and how you're going to get from your apartment to campus is something to consider. The price, it can vary. The closer you are from downtown, the more expensive it gets, and the farther you get from campus, generally the cheaper it gets. So you want to keep in mind that you also need to pay for utility costs, which is electricity, sometimes water, internet service, and extra fees. You want to also think about what kind of amenities are included in your apartment. So some apartments have fitness centers, laundry rooms. Some of them have air conditionings in the units, or some of them are just basic. Other things to think about is how much a deposit. So for almost all apartments in the Portland metro area, you're going to have to pay a deposit. A deposit is a fee that you pay, but you can get it returned at the end when your contract ends. Another thing that you want to think about is your contract length. So you'll have to sign what's called a lease, which is a legally binding contract for actually both all living options, homestays, on-campus housing, and off-campus housing. So you want to look at the contract length, because some of them are month to month, some of them are 3, 6, 9, or 12-month contracts. And some of the apartments, actually all of the apartments, will have an application, and some of them will have a background check. Again, you want to consider the length of the lease and the move-in dates. And another option that's near campus is called College Housing Northwest, which is a nonprofit housing run by students for students. There's the link to their website on the slide. Some common apartments around campus are the Clay and Tiffany, the Amy, and Goose Hollow, and those are all within walking distance to campus. Next slide, please. So when you're living off campus, some things to keep in mind if you want to find a roommate, which keeps costs down. You want to think about, what is the relationship status of your roommate? Are they single, married? Do they have a partner? Are they coming with family members? Bedtime, study time? Are they night people? Are they morning people? What kind of food choices? So depending on what cultures you're from, you might have different food habits and eating and cooking times. Other things to think about are what their hobbies and interests are. Do they have a car? Do they have pets? Do they like to party? Or are they really quiet? Do they smoke? If they're American, do they use marijuana? For F1 students, you're not allowed to use marijuana because it's a federal law. Also, do they drink alcohol? So these are all things to keep in mind when trying to find a roommate, so that you can find somebody that's more compatible with you. Next slide, please. So some things to think about on how to live happily with a roommate. So before you move in, you want to reach out to your roommate and learn more about them and plan and talk about living together. You want to know who's bringing what kind of things. So maybe if I'm living with Chendi, I'm going to bring all the kitchen utensils, so pots and pans, and she's going to bring some furniture. So you want to know those kinds of things ahead of time. And then that can also keep your costs down if you share costs on those things. I think that's really important, not only with roommates, but just in life, is communication is key, especially when living with other people. So you want to keep an open line of communication with your roommate. Make sure to share your needs as well as listen to your roommate's needs as well. And a good thing to do before you start living together is set expectations. So the important part of living with someone is setting expectations and having good routines to happily live together. So if you understand what the other person wants and needs are, it's a little bit easier and have a smooth transition into your relationship as roommates. Also be open-minded. You can learn a lot from a roommate. So you might not know who your roommate is before, but you could become good friends and learn a lot from your roommates as well. Next. I'm gonna turn it over to Alyssa. She'll take over this.
Oh, sorry, Christy, I think from the next slide.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Some things to be aware of for off-campus housing. So each apartment complex has different rules. So you want to know if international students can lease a unit or rent a unit. Are there any particular requirements for international students that they might not be able to meet? So for some apartments, you'll need a background check, you need a credit history, which international students don't have at the moment. So you want to check on that as well. Second thing I mentioned before, you want to know, keep in mind what distance from campus you prefer. Do you want to be close? Do you want to be further out? What is the neighborhood like? Is there supermarkets and amenities nearby that you can easily access? How many bedrooms that the unit have? Do you want a roommate or do you want to live alone? Are you going to bring family members to live with you? So these are all things to keep in mind. Something to ask the apartment complex will utilities be included? For example, electricity, water, garbage, internet, are they included in the price or are you responsible for that? For off-campus housing, a lot of times the apartments are not furnished. So you want to check to see if they are furnished or not. You want to also find out about the security deposit. How much is it? Will it be returned later? And what things would prevent that from being returned to you fully? Of course, there's going to be an application, so you want to find out if there's an application fee. Usually, if it's a fee, it won't be returned, but you can always ask to see if that will be returned. Another thing to know is what day is the last day of payment for each month. So when is your rent due? If you miss that due date, is there a late payment fee attached to that? And something really important to know about is that you will have to sign a contract or a lease. This is a legally binding document, so you want to know and read through when signing the lease and contract and see what the length of the lease is. Another thing to think about is if you would like to move out before the end of your lease, is there an early termination fee and what are the rules associated with that? A lot of times, many apartments will have, if you don't live in your apartment through the whole length of the lease, they'll charge you extra for moving out early. A couple more things are you going to have a pet like a dog or a cat? If so, is there any pet policy? Are there additional fees to pay? And the most important thing is a contract. Make sure that you understand it completely If there's anything that you don't understand, ask. Um, and is there anything that you have to pay attention to in the contract as well?
Thanks, Christy. Yeah, this slide is kind of a continuation of what Christy was talking about every place that you live, you'll have to sign some sort of lease agreement or contract, just saying that you are going to be living in that unit and you will be responsible and kind of adhere to all the rules that they have for the place that you live. So one thing that you can utilize once the term begins, PSU has a great resource called Student Legal Services, and they have actual attorneys who work for PSU and they specifically help students. And so if you have any questions about a housing lease or a contract, and you aren't totally sure, or if you run into any issues with the housing management, you can go to the PSU Student Legal Services office and make an appointment with one of their attorneys, and they'll walk you through it and help you get your questions answered, which is really great. Because yeah, with off-campus housing, there's a little more to think about when you're signing up for all these things. And so just making sure you're aware of all of them before you commit to something. Some additional things to keep in mind, Christy mentioned quite a few of them. For security deposit, I guess the only thing I would add is that um, most most places will have something, and a lot of the times it's a set amount, so it's quite a lot of money. It could be a few $100s all the way to a month's rent. So just consider that when you're looking for places that you'll have to have a certain amount of money in order to move into that place and have a little extra set aside. Background check, if you could always ask the property manager if there's other ways that you can provide to confirm. Sometimes, yeah, for background checks, if you don't have a social security number, which all US citizens have um, at the start, then you could just double check with them and see if there's other ways like providing your I-20, that you're a PSU student. Sometimes it might be showing like a bank statement that you can afford to live there for like 3, 4, 5 months. Different ways. So I wouldn't, if you encounter a off-campus housing option and they require a background check and you can't because you don't have a social security number, just let them know you're an international student at PSU and if there's anything you can provide instead. Scams is a huge thing, so be very cautious when you look online for a place to live. I would say never give your important personal information or a large sum of money right away. Make sure you take your time and just make sure it's a legitimate property management place. Because I think if you use online resources like Craigslist or Roommate Finder, um, these are where the most scams happen. So it's usually like if you're looking for just like a place with a random person that looks good and you contact them and they start like asking like, oh, can you send me this amount of money? Or what is like, can you send me this information about you? I wouldn't say that would be like the first thing you give away. So I would suggest just getting more detail about the place, looking it up other places online to making sure it's a legitimate place, or You could always email our office and get our opinion too, if you're not totally sure, just to get another pair of eyes on the place. And then for students starting in summer, you could check in with your mentor. For students starting in fall, you'll be assigned a mentor in July, so you could always check in with them then at that point too. And just be aware it's out there and be cautious about it. Some other things that Christy didn't cover, each place might have community guidelines, so that's like, you know, some shared spaces. And on campus has this too, but it's just kind of official or unofficial rules about behavior in the shared space and in your own room. And then this, for example, could be like policies around perfumes or scents or quiet hours, and just ways of interacting with tenants. If you have pets, it's great. A lot of places in Portland will allow pets. They just require an extra fee when you start living there. And it can be a little bit expensive. It might be a few $100s. So just keep that in mind. And then a big thing to keep in mind also is transportation, how you'll get to and from school. Just because the closer you live to campus, the more expensive it will be. But in turn, you might be able to walk to campus. But the further you are, the less expensive it will be, but the longer it will take to get to campus. So just keeping that in mind. And then, of course, personal preference. The US has a lot of grocery stores, but a lot of them, I would say, are more accessible by car, depending on the neighborhood. So will the housing you're interested in have any grocery stores nearby, or will you need to drive, take public transportation, or can you walk there? So if you don't have a car, it's good to consider a place close to shopping centers since carrying groceries is can get heavy. And then let me move to the next slide. Some other important information. Here is a map of Portland, and Portland State University is in downtown Portland, kind of where it says the Portland Art Museum. We're right next to it. Keeping in mind, so that area with the little red, that is a Portland like Central. That's like the area that we can Portland. And outside of that, there are different suburbs. So in North, there's Vancouver, Camas, Troutdale, Gresham, Westland, Lake Oswego, Beaverton. So when you're looking for places, you should see if it's within Portland or if it's in a suburb. I would say that living in a suburb, some areas are a lot closer. Troutdale is pretty far. I would say it's by transportation, it would take a very long time to get to Portland. Versus like Beaverton, it's the line between Portland and Beaverton is much shorter, so it might be a little bit closer. But I would really suggest when you're looking at places, seeing where it is, and then trying to map and figure out how long it would take you, or like what bus or train you would need to take to get to PSU, just so that you keep in mind your daily commute and the frequency of transportation. Because it's not a huge city. We do have great transportation, but it's not like New York City where a train is coming every few minutes. Like a train might come every 15, 20 minutes, or like buses, some only come once a half an hour. So it's really important that you consider this when you're looking for off-campus housing. And then just a little bit about transportation. There are a lot of transportation options, and TriMet is the main transportation system. So it's there's a little picture up top. It's the white and blue train and bus. And PSU, as a student, you can get a Viking pass, and that is a discounted pass that's valid for 3 months at a time. So basically the quarter. And it can be used on yeah, both the bus or trains. And that goes in Portland and all the suburbs. The Portland streetcar, that's the image of the pink and kind of yellowy orange. That's free to ride as long as you have a PSU ID. And the streetcar, it doesn't go very far. It basically just goes kind of in a loop in the very central area of Portland. But it is free, which is really great. And if you need to get somewhere that's pretty close by, PSU did partner with Nike and their bicycles that they have. So as an international student, you can get a free membership and receive a $20 credit each month. And those are all over kind of downtown Portland and kind of in the suburbs too, or mostly just the Portland suburbs, because going to Beaverton by bike would be very far. And then there is a scooter option. There are different scooter parking locations on campus if you prefer that. PSU itself has different options. So we are a super bikeable city, which is really nice. So on campus, we have our own bike hub, and they sell bikes and they repair bikes. And they also give a lot of biking resources. But PSU does have different locations on campus where you can park your bike. And if you have any questions about how to get from your home to campus by bike, they also can kind of help you navigate that and give you a map. You can drive to campus. It is a little bit expensive. They have full-time parking, part-time parking, and carpool permits. They also have hourly and daily parking. For a daily parking is about $14. So if you do that every day, it adds up quite a lot. So just consider that. And there are resident and overnight parking permits as well. And PSU does have something called the bike program, which is really nice. You can rent a bike for $45 for the whole term, and it comes with lights, a lock, garage parking, one of the parking places on campus, and a helmet. And they do this year, they did purchase some e-bikes, which is really nice. I looked before, and those are all taken, but you could get on a wait list to help with that if you like biking, but you don't want to get super sweaty and you want a little bit of extra help. That's an option as well. And then one thing I will mention now, just to keep in mind for later, is that when you arrive to PSU, a really great service is Focus, who works really closely with our office, their organization that do lots of events and English conversation, tax help for students. They also provide airport pickups just for our international students. And they don't charge anything for this. So if you are coming to the airport and you have a place that you're going to, whether on campus or off campus, you can submit a request. At least I know they prefer as far in advance as possible, especially for fall term when a lot of students are coming. But they will help you like with all your luggage and take you to your place. So it is a really nice service that if you can take advantage of, just because I know it can be kind of stressful once you land somewhere to try and navigate to where you need to go with all of your things. But there are other ways to get from the airport to where you need to go. There's the train, taxis, and just ride sharing as well. And yes, that is what I mostly wanted to cover today. And then next, I'll hand it over to June to talk about a little bit about PSU student life.
Hi guys, so I'm gonna be talking about the PSU student life. So can you go to the next slide? So orientation in Poland State is mandatory for all the students and especially international students. And the dates that you have to be aware of, if you're studying the summer, session 1 is gonna be on June 18th, and the session 2 is on a Thursday, June 20th. So you have to come for one of these sessions during the summer. If you're studying on fall, it's going to be separated between graduate and undergraduate. So for graduate, it's going to be on a Friday, September 20th, 2024. And for undergrad, it's going to be on a Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. If you want to know more information, click the link at the bottom. Next slide. So, life at Poland State University, there are so much of resources in PSU. I can like name so many of them. Like, there's even a resource for food. We have something called food pantry. We can give free food. And also for career advice, there is a career service called the Career Center in Poland State University, which is a really, really good resource. And lastly, we will talk about it later, but we have even a financial help resource called Financial Wellness Center, which helps you so much with your financial like budgeting and helping out. Next, so for all of this, you can ask the International Student Scholar Service, and you'll be assigned to ISMP mentor, like what I'm doing right now. And they can be your first point of contact when you come to campus. And for campus recreation, which is like school gym and like a lot of stuff you can do, please visit the website. Please do visit because there are so many cool things you can do, and you can learn so many things you can do in campus rec and different events they have. And for student organizations, Poland State Connect is a website that you can see all the events happening in PSU. So they have a portal for all the organizations or the clubs. So check that website out if you're interested in any clubs or clubs and join clubs and organizations that you can like mingle a lot with students. And we have the biggest event in fall, which is Party in the Park, which is the annual campus-wide resources fair, where there'll be all the resources and clubs and all that in PSU that's going to gather around. So please check it out when you guys come in the fall term. And for scholarships, so PSU has so many scholarships. You can check on that website, the PDX Student Finance Scholarship. If you do, but every scholarship have criterias and rules. So please go to the Financial Wellness Center. They can help you to navigate which scholarship you can apply to. Let's see, can you go to the next slide? Yes, so classrooms and academic expectation. So PSU is divided into core systems, which means divided into 4. And so you need to have a lot of time management in terms of like how you're gonna schedule your homework and your classes and everything, how you're gonna divide into 4. And there's so many ways that you can get help by that, by going to your international advisor, or like your advisor of your choosing international program. And in PSU, actually I'm a business major and concentration marketing. Homework and group work can be really important as there can be presentations from writing essays. So homeworks and group works can be very important. And for undergraduate, there is college success course. Check that website out. That is a website where they show different tutoring you can do. Tutoring is from mostly from students, and it can be like master students too. So please check it out. It can be a lot of help. And there's a learning center and a writing center in PSU, which is a really good help too. And as I talked about before, the course plan and advisors can be very, very helpful as you can plan your course system when you first come to Poland State. And master's and doctoral in the PSU library, there is an area just for the master students on the fifth floor. Unfortunately for the summer students, I don't know, the library is gonna be opened. At least is that correct?
I think by a fall it should be open. Yeah.
Yes. So in the summer, I'm not sure it's gonna be open. And for the homework and group work, it could be done at that too. And there's midterms and finals. So watch all of that out because especially for master and doctoral classes, it can go really, really, really fast. Can you go to the next slide? Yes, live at Poland State University. So there are so many events happening in Poland State University. So check your My PSU email because all your professors, all your there will be a lot of like emails sent to you in terms of what's happening in Poland State. So please get your PSU email as soon as possible and check your PSU email. And Canvas is a website that Poland State students use to do their assignments and submit their homework. So if you want to see what assignments you have to do or like what homework you have to do, you can check Canvas. So in Poland State, there's three type of classes you can attend, which is virtual. Another one is hybrid, which is Zoom and in person, and last one in person. So attend Zoom and in-person lecture. We mix it at the same time. And and study regularly and consistently. This is really, really important because as I told you, even for the masters, like the classes can go really, really fast. But even for undergrad, also like the pace can go really fast because everything can happen all of a sudden. Everything can be bunched up in 1 week. So don't try to do like everything in a week. Like try to plan and try to study regularly, constantly. Try to balance your study. Look at look for learning communities. This is also, I think, very, very useful, especially for like science majors, as there's a program called Trio, which is a center where you can get a lot of learning help for like science majors, where they help so much. And have an on-campus job. All the on-campus job in Poland State is posted in Handshake and also the PSU Connect. Please check both websites, but for like different job open on PSU. And if you're interested in going to gym classes, there is a PDF recreation in Group X. Also, one thing to add more is PSU also has in the campus reg also have their own league called Intermiddle League. So check that out if there's a sport that you're interested in, because that's, I think, for me the fastest way that I made friends was through the intramural leagues. And this is the next slide. Okay, thank you. Thank you guys. Do you guys have any questions?
I think Chindy was doing a great job of answering the questions in the Q&A. But yeah, if you have any questions for us now about any of the topics that we covered, please feel free to unmute and ask your question, or if you don't want to do that, you could put it in the chat as well.
Hi, hello. May I proceed? I do have a question.
Sure.
Okay, I will be joining PSU for the fall semester. And as you mentioned that in the month of June, we will be assigned a mentor. So for that, do we have to email somebody for that to be done, or like how does that work?
Oh, yeah. So, as long as you are registered for the International Student Orientation, you said you're starting in fall.
Yes, yes.
Yes. So as long as you're signed up for that, that kind of triggers and notifies us that you have signed up for it, and at that point, we'll match you with one of our mentors. So just make sure that you're signed up for orientation. And I can put the main website in the chat in just a second. If you're an undergraduate student, the process is a little bit different. If you, I think, do your intent to enroll at PSU, then that lets us know that you're coming. You, as undergrad students, don't sign up for our orientation. They're kind of, once they do the intent to enroll, that lets us know and we'll sign you up automatically. And then at that point, we'll match you with a mentor. But for graduate students, you do have to sign up for our orientation. And let me put in the chat. Um, Here is the new student page. The main one is for summer students just because that's the next term, but our orientation coordinator did put the fall new student checklist in there too. So you can click on what best describes you. If you're F1 graduate student, then you would want to click on that one, and then
Yeah.
it should give you additional information. Um, and it does have a link to register for our orientation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And the reason why we assign mentors at the end of June and July is because right now we're actually training them. And so we're training them this spring so that they're ready to welcome new students starting in summer and into fall. And then I'm going to stop the share, that way we're kind of all on the same screen. But if you need to contact us, our information is there as well.
And just a reminder again, we'll be sharing the PowerPoint presentation with everyone. So it'll have the links and the email addresses so that you can refer back to it later.
And someone did ask a question about on-campus jobs, and I would say for on-campus jobs, a great resource that we have is the University Career Center. And they have workshops to help you with writing an American style resume, tips for applying for on-campus jobs, um, helping with cover letters. Cover letters is a pretty American thing where you like have to write out why you want the job too. And so they also do workshops about how to write that and making sure it connects to the job responsibilities listed in the job. For our F1 and J1 international students, um, you're kind of restricted to an on-campus job as part of like your immigration status. And eventually, if you get an internship, CPT, then you can work off campus, but kind of at the beginning, you're kind of restricted to just on-campus jobs. And so I would definitely, the University Career Center, they do workshops every term. We're going to try and do a special one in the fall before classes start. But they really do like stuff every single week. So I would definitely just keep that in mind when you're applying for jobs, that there are workshops available to you. And there you can meet one-on-one with one of their career center advisors about like how to look for a job, or they can help you navigate the website to tailor to look specifically what you want to find. And then if you do write a cover letter, they can read that and kind of give you tips and advice to make it better. So just keep that in mind.
There are two. There's one question that came in the Q&A. I'm just going to answer here because it's faster. And then I had one in a direct message I want to answer for everybody to hear. For on-campus housing, we don't separate master students from everybody else. We have a group of, so our incoming first-year students, typical aged freshmen, so like 18, 19-year-olds just out of high school, they're separated into certain floors, but everybody else we mix together. We do try to look at ages when we're matching roommates though. So if you're, 25, we're going to try to put you with someone who's closer to your age instead of putting you with a 20-year-old or a 19-year-old. But they are all kind of mixed together. And then the other question I had was about on-campus housing and that break between terms. Some schools, shut down and students need to find somewhere to live. We don't. Our housing is open. So if you're here in fall term and you're going to be with us in winter term, you can stay in your unit through that break period at no extra cost. We're open. This is your home for the full academic year. There is a break between the end of the academic year and the start of the summer term, or the end of the summer term and start of the academic year. If you have a contract with us for both of those periods, then you're able to stay in your room through that period at no extra cost as well. So for us, a lot of our students, this is their home, not just our international students, and they don't have somewhere else to go to during the break. So we do remain open.
We also in the Q&A have a question about the weather in Portland, and I'm assuming everybody wants to know. Does anybody want to talk about the weather? June, do you want to?
Yeah, the weather is quite getting warm currently. Also, I got a question about the work authorization. So actually I work 3 jobs on campus currently. So I can answer that. So you can give it a try applying to like jobs that needs work authorizations, but you will get less chance of you getting it. So try to apply for jobs that doesn't need work authorizations. There is so many jobs like that doesn't need work authorization, that try to apply for those first as your priority. And if you want to give it a shot, trying to apply for jobs that does need work authorization, you can give it a try, but you will have less chance of getting those jobs.
And I'll add on the weather question. It does vary a lot. So summers have been pretty warm from our perspective. My brain is in Fahrenheit, which I know requires translation, but 80s, and then it gets up into the 90s and sometimes the hundreds, and we all start to melt and not handle it very well. But it's been getting warmer, but we will get rain, we will get cold. Today it's kind of cold and chilly, and there's a little bit of rain going on. So if you're here during the year, it's going to vary a lot. I recommend just sort of looking at what the weather forecasts are. Kind of, if you look now, you can get an idea of some of the variation that's going on. There will be rain, there will be heat, and there will be cold.
I think the one thing we don't really have is really humid weather compared to some countries. I feel like that's the one nice thing that I like, is not having super humid weather, but it does get hot, just not hot and humid.
And something to add for those of you that will be staying in the winter, we get a little bit of snow, but not a lot. Mostly in the winter, it's rainy and cold instead of snowy.
Yeah.
Weatherproof clothing. Please invest in
Yeah.
waterproof, or we call it now weatherproof, which I don't know what the difference is, but
Yeah, I was talking to one of our mentors last week, and she said that, well, she comes from a place where it's very sunny all the time, and she said that when the first year she was here, she became depressed because she didn't see the sun as much as she did. And so she ended up getting prescribed a high dose of vitamin D. And she still takes a high dose now. That's helped her a lot. But yeah, in the winter from like 8 to 4, it's sunny, but then it gets dark. In the summer, it's really nice. It doesn't get dark till 10 p.m. And so, yeah, really, really drastic changes in the weather.
And can I go back to the work authorization? I see there's
Oh,
a
yeah.
question. Jen,
Oh.
I'm not sure what you meant about applying,
Okay, I can go deeper in that. So
but
in
actually,
PSU,
June, could I answer quickly just because, yeah, maybe you can make, because in general, international students, especially new international students, need work authorization no matter what, right? There are no
yes,
jobs that are not requiring work authorization. So,
right,
have a work study. Ah, okay, work study is not available to
different.
international students,
Yes,
June, I thought, at all.
yes. So the authorization, what I meant by is work study is a little
Ah,
bit different. So when you apply, so like when you apply to a job, you can get authorization, but some job that when I was working in the School of Business was required CPT, which
yes,
is another authorization. Like it depends on what kind of job you get on campus.
yes.
So the jobs I'm doing is student job and it's part-time jobs and they don't need work authorization.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
on-campus
what I meant.
jobs, 99, like on-campus job in general, just need approval from our office. But like
Mhm.
what June is saying about special work authorization, those are for off-campus jobs. And that is only for very specific things, which we will talk about at orientation. And it's not available to new students right away anyway. So, but on-campus jobs are available as soon as you arrive. And it's, yeah, you just need to search for them, and there the process is just like regular jobs. You
Easy,
submit a
yeah.
resume and cover letter, and you'll probably have an interview. So it's a great experience as well. So I definitely recommend it.
And how you get the work authorization? There was a question about how to get work authorization. It's basically when you get the job offer letter of the job, you will get work authorization from the school. It's gonna take like 1 or 2 day in process to get a work authorization. So after you get accepted, everything will be done from the department that you are hired for.
I think Ali had a hand up. Go ahead.
Hello, I have a question about the housing. I actually prefer to go to off-campus housing, but I afraid that I could not find a proper a roommate for myself. So my question is that can I apply for on-campus housing? But I want to sure that if I find any roommates that I cancel my contract with on-campus housing and go to off-campus.
So there are fees if you cancel your housing contract. So when you sign up for on-campus housing, you're signing up to live with us. And we have what's called a cancellation guide. So if you're like, I want to make sure I have housing, but if I find a roommate that I want to live with and move off campus instead, you can do that, but you need to look at the cancellation guide to get an idea of when you cancel, what the fees are going to be, because they can get quite high. So if you've already moved in, you're responsible for at least that term's cost. And there's a buyout fee. So as we get closer and closer to the start of the term, the fees go up into over $1,000. So if that's sort of what you want to do, then you're definitely going to want to look at those cancellation fees. If you go to our website, the pdx.edu/housing, there's policy and forms, and the cancellation guide is in there.
Okay, thank you. And I have another question. That Are there any social media groups or channels that international students can meet each other and find a roommate for off campus?
That's a good question. We don't have one specifically for international students. There are a few Facebook groups for the general PSU student population. I can find that link really quickly. And a lot of people post about room vacancies or finding roommates. But we don't have a special group just for international students at the moment.
So I got a question from Katrina that I can answer. So we don't have an exact fund. However, you can get help, I believe, from student success from the Smith in the fourth floor. Just check it out if you have an issue. But normally there isn't much lot of help that you can get, but there are different ways that you can ask for help.
So we have a question in the
for-
Q&A about, can housing fees be paid in installments?
Yeah, so for housing, for on-campus housing, we bill through your student account and we bill at the start of the term. So if you're going to be here for the full academic year, we're going to bill your fall term, winter term, and spring term all separately at the start of each term. And then you can sign up for the PSU payment plan through student accounts. And that will divide your payment, anything you owe, into 3 payments that are due early in the month, each month of that term.
And then one thing I will say for housing is that sometimes students choose to wait till they get here to find housing, which I know just from experience helping students can be quite stressful, especially when they're trying to get registered, get their ID card, pay for everything, and then go to class. And so and on top of doing like homework, looking for housing is a lot. And so I do encourage everyone to just start the process now if you haven't found housing. I know it's really early, but it'll give you time to look for places that you like and reach out and do the research and all of that, just so that when you arrive, um, that you can kind of move in and get set up and then be ready for school to begin. Um, I know a lot of times, like the first place you move in will probably not be where you end up living for like 5 years. It could be, but a lot of times, like students will get here, they'll find their housing and then decide like, oh, I met some friends, like, oh, we're gonna go look for a new place together. Or actually, I really like this part of town because it has a lot of restaurants and cute shops. I'm gonna move there next. And so, um, just keeping in mind, like, the place you move in doesn't have to be the place you live forever. Um, and I do think a homestay or on campus is a little bit of an easier option just because when you move in, you're kind of set. Off campus, there are a lot more things to consider, but it is a really nice choice if you like your independence and you have more options to choose like where you want to live. So yeah, there's pluses and minuses for all of them, but just figuring out which is the best for you. Looks like there's still some questions in the chat.
So for the payment plan, Actually, this term, actually, I learned to payment plan. I did it during the school of the term, like before, like during the classes were happening. But please check out the website from the PSU website just to check like if they have any like what kind of payment plan you can do in the summer, because I'm not sure about the summer.
Generally, when you sign up for the PSU payment plan, you divide your charges into 3 payments throughout the term, and they're usually due on the 6th of the month, except for in winter term, that might be a little bit different depending on what day the term starts. But generally, when you sign up for the payment plan, the payments are due on the 6th of each month of the term. So you can have 3 payments for each quarter. So that's a way of doing an installment plan for housing and your tuition as well. And you can always sign up for the PSU payment plan, but pay 100% at the beginning. It just gives you a little bit of a cushion, just in case you don't want to pay for everything up front.
I had a question way earlier about visa appointments, so I just wanted to bring that back up. The student was asking me about if we can help with getting earlier visa appointments, and unfortunately we can't, or no school can. The embassy will, needs to consider all students equally. And so if you are having trouble getting an appointment, what we usually hear from students is that just make an appointment, even if it's far ahead. And once you have an appointment, then it's much easier to ask for an emergency appointment earlier. And usually embassies look at your start date, and the start date on your I-20 is orientation day, so September 18, September 20th. Early move-in is September 18th. And then once you do have your visa, please be careful with the arrival dates. With your I-20, you can only arrive 30 days before the start date. So that's September 20th. So probably August 21st is the earliest you can come in. And then we do recommend you come a few days before orientation, because the time change does affect you. So it would be nice if you would adjust by orientation day.
And it looks like a few of you want to connect. Sanket said whoever's joining fall to message him, and we'll add you, I think maybe on a message or another group. So if you're wanting to connect with some other fall students, you can look in the chat now and message each other.
So there's a question of when is the earliest they can move into on-campus housing?
Yeah, and that's that September 18th. And you do have to sign up for that. So we've sent out, when you sign up, you can indicate that you want early move-in, and that you're an international student. And then we send out information letting you know the approved move-in days. We do ask you send your flight info when you're signing up for the early move-in, just so we have that information. And yeah, that's going to be the earliest. We try to make it so international early move-in lines up with that orientation time. Unfortunately, we can't move people in earlier than that. For summer term, it is the move-in date for summer term, because we don't have the rooms ready for you yet before that.
maybe I can answer Mark's question in person. It's easier than writing out. So Mark was asking about course registration. So for undergrads, course registration is available after you attend orientation. So, and for everybody, please be aware that there are two different types of orientation. There's the general PSU orientation for undergrads, and then graduate students will probably have something specific with their departments. And then for everybody, there is the specific international student orientation. Okay, so for registration, you have to attend the PSU orientation, which you can do online before arrival. So once you do the orientation, then you are able to register for courses.
Like another question towards that.
Go ahead, Mark.
Like I need the course registration to get my ID card and to move in earlier. So how do I manage that then? And I think this is supposed to be the registration open today. So like that was another question because I was already trying and yeah, it gave me an error.
Yeah, you have a hold, so you will have a hold on your account until you attend the orientation, which I think it is not until, I know Christy and Alyssa, do you know when the virtual orientations are starting? I think it's not before June, right?
I would need to look at the main website. I don't know
Yeah.
the official dates for those.
But like I know that registration starts being open, but it's not that urgent to start registering right away at Mark, and there will be classes open, you know, later on as well. And for ID and move in, it's all kind of happens at the same time, like there in September, just before around orientation. So you can't move in earlier than September 18th, and then you can get, you know, by that time you can register and get your ID around that time. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, you could email our the international admissions counselors. I can chat their email, but you could get, if you want more specific dates on the online orientations that they have, they would be able to tell you.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, let me just find their email real quick.
Hey Mark, so I used to work for orientation, like it's normally mid of June. If you don't attend the virtual one, if you attend the virtual one, you can do it faster because on the spot itself, they help you, they get your hold off and you can register at that moment. If you do, and you can do everything like making your card, all this kind of thing right after your registration is done.
And I just put a link in the chat for it. This is our website, for new international students coming in, and there's a checklist. So if you scroll down, there's also the link for our international orientation. But if you scroll down and there is undergraduates and graduates and post-bac link checklist, please check it, and it will say how to register for the other orientation as well.
Mark, are you coming for summer or fall?
Fall.
Okay.
And then I just put in the link that Chindi was talking about for the new student orientation.
And I'm really sorry if you are getting maybe confusing messages about, you know, there's how many orientations there are. And please don't hesitate to like email us if something sounds confusing. There's the new student specifically email address that Christy, Alyssa, Yoko and I check. So please email us if anything is confusing. But yeah, don't always forget that you have the regular PSU stuff, and then on top of that, you have the extra for international students always to consider. So you're special. in a good way.
We have a few more minutes left. Anybody has a last question they want to ask us before we end?
Mark, I was looking online at the orientations. I think the ones in July and August are in person, since you would be able to attend those, I would maybe email the admissions and just see what options if you have if you want to try and register as early as possible.
Also, the orientations can be full, so you might not be able to apply if it gets full. So try to apply as soon as possible, because I've seen situations where, especially in person, that it was full, that students has to go back until August to register for classes because it was full.
And June, but most international students can go to the in-person one because they're too early. So there is the virtual option for international students, and I think maybe Yoko knows that exactly, but I think once you register maybe for the international orientation, you will get information on how to register for the virtual regular orientation.
Then because last year I had some international students in my first orientation, like some tennis players, student
Yes.
players.
Yeah.
And also there were, I think I had some one or two international students who were high schoolers.
Yes.
At just transiting to PSU, there were some students who were coming in too. That's why I talked that way. Yeah.
Trying to see.
I can answer a question about on-campus housing. Our rates are all listed on the website, so I encourage you to go take a look at that. The cost varies depending on what kind of room you're signing up for. It does, again, include all of the utilities, maintenance, internet, but it varies. Housing in Portland can be very expensive, and on-campus housing is priced really well for the area.
So there's a question about, is this process the same for graduate course registration? It is different. So they can register at any time for their courses, right? So for graduate students, once registration is open for you, you can register. You don't need to attend the orientation first, but orientation is still required. The process is a little bit different for undergraduate students, where they have to attend the PSU general orientation, whether it's online or in person first, before they can register for classes. And there's a last question about the confirm enrollment. Is there any fee?
Yes, I think there is a fee to confirm enrollment.
And also there was a question about sports. Yes, there are so many sports that you can participate, like the intramurals I talked about. And if you like to watch sports, we have football and volleyball season happening in fall term, and if you come a little bit summer, it starts from summer and it goes until fall. So check that out too.
There was one question about estimated amount, how much should you budget before arrival? And that kind of depends on when you arrive. Like, I know there was also a question about what if you arrive earlier, then early housing starts. So if you need to stay a few days in a hotel, or university housing has daily rates too, right? Am I correct? But I want to maybe just address one thing, because the living expenses we provide on the I-20 are pretty accurate. And I know you can probably save by having a roommate, and you can save by other things, but please don't dismiss it as an amount that you will not need, because it is current and accurate for Portland. And yes, there is way to cut, and there is way to work on campus, but there is still a big chunk needed for studying and the living expenses. But I don't know if I can give an exact amount of what you would need.
And then one thing to add to Jeff that I think June talked about too, like going to see sports and play sports. There's also, depending on the term, the gym will put on activities, so you can join like a league for the term, like soccer, basketball. There's tournaments too, where they're just like you get a group together and it's just on a 1 day, or you can join individually and they'll put you on a team too. But then there's also just like drop-in times if you want to play a little bit of basketball with people or volleyball. And then you can also rent equipment too if you need to. So there's kind of a variety depending on like how much time and commitment you have. But there are ways to join sports and different activities on campus.
Then we had one question about paying for things before you arrive or once you arrive. Your tuition is not due until the 6th of October for fall students. And then for those starting in summer, it's not due till July 6th. So you do not need to pay before you arrive. And actually you can't pay now. So usually most students pay after they arrive and once the term starts. But I think our time, it's still 9:30. So it's 9:35 in Portland right now. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to email the intl-newstudents@pdx.edu. And we're happy that you came and joined us, whatever time in the world it is for you. I think some of you are ready to go to bed, and others of us are starting our day. So thank you for joining us. We're glad you were here.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to email us, and see you all hopefully in summer and fall.